Well, hi. I didn't expect so much people here this afternoon, but I'm lucky enough to have the nap time, so you can enjoy the sofas. It's comfortable, and take a nap if you are not interested on the talk. Uh, so we are here to speak about. I don't know why I've seen this arrow on the screen. We are here to talk about architecting Drupal hosting. First of all, because if I do it at the last time, I never have time, I want to thank our sponsors, because if there were no sponsors, we wouldn't be here. We couldn't share our knowledge. So thank you to our platinum sponsors, Validea and Iberus. To our gold, silver, and bronze sponsors, I won't mention all of them because they are a bunch. And thank you to the local group, because I know how hard it is to organize a DrupalCamp, and I'm really grateful to them for taking the time to organize the DrupalCamp and making it possible. So let's start with some disclaimers, just if you are expecting something different. This talk is heavily opinionated. It's based on my experience. And like every talk you see, you should do your own research and take things with a grain of salt. These are my personal opinions based on my knowledge, and it doesn't represent the company I work for. So take it as it's personal. It's about Drupal hosting, but about those things, it's about thinking, because it's not following a recipe here. There is no such thing like a hosting recipe for Drupal, or not yet. It's not really about containers, Kubernetes, nor cloud providers. So you are expecting here to see some health charts, you won't be lucky. And we are always selling, sometimes products, sometimes ideas. Don't buy the full package. If I say something interesting, take it with you. If not, just leave it. So if you are not interested at any time, you can go to another session, because I think there are more interesting sessions at this time. A little bit about me. Everybody calls me here Nite, but my name is Pedro. I have been a sysadmin, DevOps, DevSecOps, whatever you want to call it, for around 20 years on the Drupal world. I have architected some of the hosting for the busiest Drupals in Spain at the past. I used to have my own company. Now I work on 1x Internet. And let me know you. Who are you? Developers in the room? Almost all. Any sysadmin? 3. Okay. Sales people? Marketing people? 1. Okay. So for the sake of brevity, do I need Kubernetes? Nope. Thank you very much. Questions? Yes, Tobias? Why you should? Just kidding. This is what we are seeing today. Why are you here today? The 3 sysadmins in the room. Why are you here today?
I was interested in the topic, so I want to learn more on different opinions about how
Okay. Okay. I will ask some questions to the sysadmins on the room later. And the salesman, why are you here today? Is the only English session at this time? This is because this is the only. Okay. So let's start with some definitions. Cloud-native technologies empowers organizations to build and run scalable applications in a modern dynamic environments such as public, private, and hybrid clouds, containers, service meshes, microservice, immutable infrastructure, and declarative APIs exemplify this approach, and so on and so on. This is the cloud-native definition from the Cloud-Native Foundation. It's part of the Linux Foundation. But if you go to AWS, you get another definition of cloud native. The software approach, blah, 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 yada, yada. And if you go to VMware's, you get another one. So what does all those definitions have in common? Both words, vague, imprecise. Please, make my day. Can someone in the room tell me precisely what is the cloud? Nice one. Another definition? Nobody? Tobias? Tobias? And anyone can tell me what is cloud native? Or what we call cloud native? Nice one, again. Yeah? What?
Another abstraction of...
Cloud native is another abstraction of the cloud. Don't worry if you can't define the cloud or cloud native. I can barely try. So what are the cloud promises? Cost efficiency. Don't use your money to buy servers and stuff, but to improve your operations. Scalability, elasticity, speed, agility, increased reliability and business continuity. Global reach and accessibility, focus on core business and security. And if you ask Gemini or ChatGPT, you will get 2 paragraphs from each headline. And if you ask for the cloud native promises, are more or less the same. There is really, the only difference I can spot was the developer freedom. The ability for developers to choose what the stack would like. More buzzwords and ambiguity. Complicated engineering concepts used as marketing tags. Smoke and mirrors. So again, why are we here today? The reason for me of doing this talk is letting people think about what are they using and why. You said it. Internet, there is no cloud, just other people's computer. Internet is a bunch of computers glued by shell scripts. Have anyone here take a look to a Helm chart? Please. 3, 4 people, 5. A Docker file? Most of you have seen a Docker file. What is a Docker file? It's a shell script. What is a Helm chart? A shell script leveraging some abstractions, but at the end, it's always the same. Templating, config files, and shell. What a cloud service actually is. what is AWS RDS? Nacho? No? The database? What is this, actually? Have you think of it? Anytime? It is just a MySQL fork with some config, some underlying config from Amazon and related tooling. And for you, it's a contract. For you, every cloud service is a contract. You can spin up a piece of software, generally an endpoint, which will follow some rules. It will be available this amount of time. It will have this computer power. It will have this amount of RAM available. It will be with a number of EOPS. I don't know how to spell it in English. Available. But at the end, it's again an abstraction about MySQL or about Redis or about whatever you think. Does it matter for you? Cloud service matters for you? I forgot to ask, how many of you work on a product company? 1, 2, 3, 5. The rest of you are developers in an agency or people in agencies? Most of you. Anyone I have not mentioned? Okay, cloud service only matters to you if it serves your needs. You don't need to learn about it if you are not going to take an advantage. More about the basics. Cloud native principles. This is, again, from the Cloud Native Computer Foundation. Design for automation. Do you think Drupal is designed for automation? Yes or no? No, no. Why not?
Because it comes from a world that automation was not very popular.
It is the legacy, then.
Yeah,
Kind of legacy. Be smart with states. Drupal states are quite young, Drupal 8. Do you think Drupal is smart with the states? No. Do you think Drupal favors managed services? I think it's the first one which Drupal will tick, because there are modules for almost every service you can imagine of. Practice defense in depth. Do you think Drupal practice defense? Yes? Why, Tobias? Yeah, but you are, okay, but do you think it's beyond the basic security model? Things like being able to disable admin account is quite young on Drupal world. Principle of less privilege is quite young in Drupal world. So it is more or less. And do you think Drupal is always being architected? What? Architectural decisions are being reviewed on a timely manner and reconsidered? I would say no, because Drupal, or yes, but slow. Yeah, politics takes so long. This is from the Google's 5 principles of cloud native. So Drupal architecture and scaling. The traditional approach to Drupal scaling. Divide and conquer. Place an in-memory database, Redis now, back in the days were memcached. Place a reverse proxy cache in front. Varnish is ubiquitous, unless you are using Fastly or Cloudflare or something like that. Offload as much as possible to companion service like Solar. And forget about vertical scaling anything but DB. Do you think it's right? This is the reality. Yeah, but this reality have hidden assumptions. Drupal expects the file system where it is running to be POSIX compliant. You can put Drupal running on top of NFS. By example, you can put Drupal running on top of an object-oriented file system. You have to use fools or something like that. Drupal is assuming you have a local cron, you have a local syslog service, and you have local mail in place. And if you are not, you have to find a workaround or architecture solution for each of these ones.
There is always a model that does that.
Yeah, but you then can end with a Drupal with 200 modules, with its sluggish. Yeah, you know. What? Yeah, and if you are using web forms or you have commerce, the cache won't help you in those situations, or not so much. I put here the distributed system fallacies. I recommend you to search for the article, because we tend to think when we are architecting any solutions that network latency is null, that external service always behave, always respond in a predictable way. Amazon itself, in some API points, responds to some requests with 200 OK, and then the payload is error, a mismatched ID on whatever. So the assumptions are dangerous. And another one regarding the horizontal scaling of the web layer is that routing algorithm is consistent, that you will always land the same cache head. If you are using Varnish, if you have only one Varnish, there's no issue, because all the requests will land to it. But if you have two Varnish instances, you need to make sure that the request lands in the correct one. Otherwise, you will be dividing your cache efficiency by a half. Sorry. Some example architectures. The vintage one. This is a diagram from a talk I did on 2011. And you can see here the firewall, CDN, load balancer, the proxies, webheads, memcache. I said it was 2011. DBs, Solar, and archives, or file systems. The classical VM architecture. Sorry for the misplacing of the diagram. The user lands in one of two CloudFront distributions. Everybody knows what is CloudFront here? If not, please ask. What is? You know what CloudFront is. Okay. Then, if there's, you are asking for a file, you land to a S3 bucket. If you are asking for a dynamic content, you land in an application load balancer. And then you have an auto-scaling group, the traditional approach. The modern approach to do the same on AWS is just switching EC2 for ECS. Pretty much the same. Containerized workload on Kubernetes. Ingress controller with the secret and the TLS, the cluster IP, the stateful set, Drupal. I don't think it should be a stateful set, but for this implementation from Google, it is implemented as a stateful set. The stateful set for MariaDB, and the persistent volumes, and the secrets, and so on and so on. And the most popular of all, the software as a service architecture. Set up and take my money. I say that all the prior diagrams are naive because the cron is not on the diagram. The deployment process is not on the diagram. They lack observability tools, log registering. They lack of caching validation workflows, which is very, very tricky on AWS. You can implement tag-based invalidation, but you will have fun if you try. And so on, so do us. Most of the diagrams I have found on internet. But when I tried to do a diagram for this, I couldn't. You can read a diagram which will be like a paper of A2 with this size of letter. You can't. You have to depict it on your head. Even software as a service are opinionated. This year, Nacho told me a tale about an option in SiteGround. It was like a speedy PHP or something like that. What? Ultra speedy PHP. You will expect that. You tick it. It is a Drupal provider. They know how to provide Drupal. You expect that ticking it will make your site more performance, and that's it. Until you realize that if the files are not there, the web server will crash. That's a sufferance for it. But every software as a service you can think of is opinionated. And everyone have its own idiosyncrasy. So if you choose one, you have to learn their idiosyncrasy to know what is going under the hood. Some nuances. For me, in my past job, one of our objectives were avoiding Drupal needing to be aware of the underlying surrounding infrastructure. Because the most aware Drupal needs to be about the services, the brittle it gets. The fragility you can achieve putting everything inside Drupal is huge. There is always more than a way to skin a cat. So you will learn 2, 3 different ways to do something, but you will have to test if they are adequate for you. Some providers just grab some script in Arnold Drupal and say it is containerized or cloud ready. You can take a look to Vietnamese Drupal Docker file. You can take a look to Vietnamese Drupal Helm before they retire from public domain, because they are retiring all the open source by the end of the month. And you can, if you are assessing a backend, you will see that it is not taking care of Drupal specificities. It is just someone doing the very basics and putting it on the internet. Talking again about CSS, JS, at some point we have to develop a module and a core patch. It was done by Jonathan. Because Drupal itself has also its idiosyncrasy. And back in that days, Drupal generates the static assets only on the first request after a cache rebuild. If you are not sharing the storage between webheads, you couldn't regenerate the assets, and you will be forced to serve the assets always from the same webhead or do some kind of background synchronization. Jonathan overcome that by a small core patch and a custom module. It is published. But that kind of specificities are the ones you have to take in mind when you are architecting for Drupal. And I said before, not all CDNs or reverse proxy caches provides support to tag-based invalidations. More nuance. Observability is not negligible, and it will cost you money, real money. But anyway, you have to know the concept of use and read. You can search for it on the internet. There are two ways of monitoring or observing the performance and how a system is doing. You will need a way to relate requests across the architecture. And if you enter the microservice or more than one Drupal in the same architecture realm, you will need to find a way to relate requests to this Drupal, done, but this another one, to have a trace of what is the journey of a request. And log ordering is not as trivial as it seems. Some pitfalls. How many of you knows that there is a limit on the DNS queries you can do on a VPC on AWS? You can only perform 1,024 queries per minute. And if you hit that limit, you will be getting errors out of the blue, and you will take your time to find out what's going on. Another one, having no swap device on virtual machines, containers have no swap, is the modern shot the other node in the head. What does that mean? When you are spinning up virtual machines on AWS or whenever you usually don't put a swap device on Linux. But Linux design expects to be a swap device. So when you run out of RAM reservation, a random process will die on the machine, and you will have to take care of. The poor man's solution to that is SysRAM. It's a module of the kernel, the Linux kernel, and it just compresses an amount, configurable amount, of the system RAM for swapping. It's quite performant. Another pitfall, if you are considering Kubernetes, be ready for eventual consistency. Anyone here knows what eventual consistency means? You know, Boris. You are? Yeah, but the cluster will get to an state you don't know what is happening during the journey. Eventual consistency is a concept in Kubernetes that means you define the cluster state, and Kubernetes will try to make it match the running infrastructure. But in the middle, you are nowhere. You don't know what is happening. More. Plan for failure. Do you think a high availability is a good setup? What? Anyone here? What? Define low availability. Traditionally, high availability is avoiding single points of failure. The issue is the moment you enter the race, the moment you start duplicating each service, you are introducing new points of failure on the system, and you are skyrocketing the complexity of debugging it. So for most solutions, bare metal server will do quite well, in fact. But business context here is everything. It's not the same architecting for a football federation than architecting an e-commerce, than architecting a newspaper site. Context is everything. So let's think while it is legal. Where are you on the web value chain? Where are you providing value to your customers? Have you think of it? What is you're providing value to your customers, right? Or not? People are asleep. What I want you to think is maybe your value is on the infrastructure layer. Maybe your value is on the design layer. Maybe your value is on the SEO. But you can try to provide the full package to your customers, or unless you are really, really big. So don't enter battles you are not supposed to win. Another concept, overall equipment effectiveness. This is a concept from industrial engineering. Is the availability, the product of the availability, performance, and quality of equipment pieces, or in this case, an architecture solution. You have to think of it because industrial engineers are clever and know that not all availability is the same. If there's no people running a machine, the machine can be being fixed by that time. It doesn't matter. So there are a bunch of calculations that you can do. Again, when you are facing architecturing any hosting for Drupal, do your napkin maths, at least roughly. Do a realistic testing, because otherwise you will think your current solution will scale with no issues, and you will find surprises. And also, be honest on the trade-offs you are taking, and write them down, because in a year, in 2 years, someone, maybe yourself, will go through the same stack and see, why are we using this here? And you might have forgotten. Pros and cons of the cloud. Anyone? Rodrigo? Name one pro of the cloud. So you are saying that they will fix if they are broken.
I try to put the money to people to fix the problem. For me, I'm praying about it. That it's wrong. It's not wrong. I would say to one flexibility.
Yeah?
Because you can test solar and
That's not flexibility. That is disposability. Yeah. Yeah.
and the other one would be infrastructure defined. So you can check exactly what is there, what's supposed to be there,
Yeah.
and replicate in your local VM. That's more or less my pros.
Yeah, but that's not the cloud. That's infrastructure as code.
Clouds allows you this.
Yeah. One of the features of cloud services are the contracts. You can define a contract for the service, and you know the service will follow it. Tobias? You will... another one? Jonathan? Yeah. 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 Cons of the cloud. Anyone?
Pretty expensive in terms of skyrocketing. So if you don't handle pretty well how many services your contract,
Mm-hmm.
you can get a bill of many zeros.
You can... Yeah. Any more cons?
You don't know what's running underneath.
Good point.
You are tied to the company, so they have to fix the things that you wrote or they wrote, and you don't have the power to.
Okay, so you don't have the ability to switch providers easily. It depends. If you are entering Kubernetes, that's the main point to enter Kubernetes, because you can switch providers more easily. Anyone more?
Distribution is hard to debug.
What?
Distribution
Yeah?
of storage, of network, of compute is harder to debug than if you do it on a single machine.
Yeah, it's harder. So it's a con of the cloud. Okay. You tell it. Someone is going to pay for it. Enter FinOps. If you don't know what is FinOps, it's a new kid on the block. That is how do I say? Is the ability to track how much you will pay for hosting your site. You can go deeper and deeper. But for data's sake, know your stuff. Know what are you hosting. If you are an agency and you have done a dozen NGOs sites, you know what you can expect from an NGO site. You know how it behaves and more or less what architecture will fit for it. If you are a product company, you are an e-commerce, you will need to know your application and how it behaves. Rules of thumb. If your site if the site you are architecting for is more or less static, use Tom or Gatsby and throw Drupal out of the equation. More. Don't trust what you read on the internet. Test it, load test it. And that's it. What I have said. And now for real questions. Podéis preguntar en español también si... What? Knowing your stuff.
The question is, what do you recommend at the end?
Knowing your stuff. If you are knowing your stuff, if you are an agency and you are planning to sell the hosting, I will go for a Kubernetes platform to build a Kubernetes platform. But you have to be big enough to have the manpower to debug it and back it. Because otherwise, you will be lying to your customers. And high availability. And most of the terms we have seen on the presentation are marketing terms, are buzzwords, are things that salespeople go to a client and, hey, we will guarantee you your availability. Your site will be distributed among different geographic regions. And then you will have to fulfill the contract. So you have to be honest at the end. If you are able to maintain it, if you are able to debug it when the issues come, we have run out of time, but debugging high traffic sites is not easy at all. And now with the AI scrappers, with the rise of crawling, you can see that only one of 100 requests to your sites is made by a human. You will have to deal with a huge amount of data.
Have you seen some project company de-escalating the cloud or de-escalating Kubernetes to go downgrade?
There are examples, Basecamp, I think. Basecamp, back from the cloud to on-premise. GitLab tried to do it on the past, but they failed. And GitLab are not a tiny company.
No, but Basecamp didn't switch off cloud native service. They just brought the same stuff on-prem.
Yeah. But they have to operate it there at the end. You can call it, so it's a valid point. You can run cloud native things on your own cluster, on your own premise. Being cloud native or using cloud approach doesn't mean always to go to a cloud provider. So you can save some bugs, but then you have to maintain the infrastructure or hire one with, sorry, I'm just saying this word. Alquilar or rent the underlying service and then put your cloud on top, a private cloud, OpenShift, that kind of things. Boris have a solution for that.
So if you don't know your stuff, would you call that vibe hosting?
If you don't know your stuff?
Would you call that vibe hosting? And yeah, jokes aside, do you see like people trying to use AI to do all this hosting, figuring out infrastructure, or do you think it's a crazy idea?
I have seen people doing all crazy things with AI lately.
But it's a recipe for disaster, no?
Well, not really. Not really, because it depends if your site is small or you fit well a use case, then you won't have any issues. But it depends on the site, and it depends on of course, by the day the things goes wrong, you will have fun.
So maybe playing devil's advocate a little bit, I see that like for small site, you just have a regular Drupal, I don't know, couple thousand requests a month or something, and you just, that for that, when you start out like that, that it's overkill to have like a Kubernetes cluster for $50 and then S3 and whatever on top of that. But then maybe the site grows, becomes more popular, then you add like a search, so you have a Solar somewhere running, and you do want a Redis, and then, so if you grow into something that maybe if you had started would make more sense in like a Kubernetes or cloud native or whatever way. So how do you, that's for me at least sort of a risk to, or maybe a pro, that it feels like it's more future-proof,
yeah,
quote unquote, but yeah, maybe your thoughts on that.
But you are paying now your future. It is an investment. You are investing your time now on figuring out how to architecture it, guessing what the future will be. But the pay is now. So there is a financial cost, an opportunity cost, because if you are doing that now, you are not doing other things. More questions? Well, that's it.